clinic. He just came to you. You want to fabricate for him complete denture, upper and lower. So the first thing you have to do, the practical things, you have to take the primary impression. If you want to take the primary impression, we have to use our stock tray. Stock tray, sometimes it comes imperforated, solid, sometimes it's perforated. Okay? I will try it in the patient's mouth. Check the size. If it's okay, I will use, as an example, alginate. Alginate to take the primary impression. We have other materials to take the primary impression. We have the alginate, we have the impression plaster, we have also impression compound type 2. Type 2. But in this case, we will use the alginate. How we can mix the alginate? We taught you last time. I will use the water as a liquid and the powder with the alginate. I will mix it all together. Then I will load it over the impression tray. Which impression tray? The stock tray, prefabricated tray. I will load it over the impression tray, put it in the patient's mouth. I will take the impression. Which impression we call it? Primary impression. Finish, take it out from the patient's mouth, then I will pour it. Which material I will pour it? I will pour it with gypsum product, type 2. Type 2. What we call this one? Dental plaster, right? Or model plaster, or cast plaster. After that, I will get the cast.
Primary.
Cast. Yeah, this one we call it the primary cast, or the primary model. This primary model, I will use it to fabricate my custom tray. Custom tray. Custom tray, I call it custom tray, or individual tray, or special tray. Why custom tray? We customize it for the patients. Individual for each individual patient. Special tray is special for for him, for the patients. I can't use this impression tray for other patients, only for one patient. Okay? Which material can be used to fabricate this one? I can use the light cure acrylic resin, or the cold, or we call it self-cure acrylic resin, cold or self, the same thing, cure acrylic resin, or I can use impression compound type 2 also to fabricate this special tray. Or I can use shellac base plate to fabricate. So I have 4 materials. Cold cure or self-cure, impression compound type 2, what else? Shellac base plate. What else? Light cure, acrylic resin. Okay. After I fabricate, how can I fabricate it? I will draw 3 lines in the cast. Which cast? This one I call it primary cast. The first line, where it's supposed to be, represent what?
Deepest sulcus.
The deepest part of the sulcus. It represents the final border of the denture, final denture. This is the first line. Then I will draw the second line, shorter and 2 mm, 2 millimeters. It will represent what? The border of the special tray. Then I will draw the third line, shorter and 1 millimeter. From what? From the second line. Right? So the distance between the third line and the first line, 3 mm, right? This one, the last line will represent the wax spacer. Wax spacer. After I draw the lines, I will put the wax, modeling wax. Why? To provide the spacer, to make the spacer. Why do I need the spacer? To provide the space for the impression materials. For the impression materials. Which impression materials I will use here? Either I can use zinc oxide, eugenol, impression paste, or I can use elastomers materials like polyether, what they call condensation silicone, or additional silicone. Additional silicone, it has other name. We call it polyvinyl siloxane. Okay, polyvinyl siloxane. You will take it later in the lectures. After I put the wax spacer, I will do the tissue stoppers. Tissue stoppers. Why do I need the tissue stoppers? It has 2 functions. The first one, to stabilize the impression tray. Which tray?
Custom tray.
Custom tray in the patient's mouth. The second point, or the second function, to prevent any excess pressure over the tissues. For that reason, I call it tissue stopper. It will stop whenever it touches the tissues. Where is these tissue stoppers? It's here. You can zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. After I finish, just keep in mind for the upper, I have to follow an area we call it the post down. Post down. P-O-S-T-D-A-M. Post down. Why do I need to take care of this area? Because this area I have to scrap it later. Why I have to scrap it? In order to compensate the polymerization shrinkage of the acrylic materials after processing. After I finish, I will use, here in this case, the light cure acrylic resin to build out or fabricate my special tray. After I finish, I'll put it in the light curing unit in order to let the material to be sit. But keep in mind, you have to make the handle as L shape in order to prevent this impression tray to impinge with the lips or the tongue of the patients. After I finish from fabricating the special tray, I will try it in the patient's mouth. If the size is okay, everything is okay, I have to scrap the wax all over the borders of the impression tray. Why? To provide a space for my other materials. This one,
Green stick.
what we call it impression compound, type 1, or green sticks, or tracing sticks. Why do I need it? To do border molding. Border molding, border, it means the border of the denture. Molding, giving shape. So I will shape the border of the final dentures using this materials.
Green stick.
I will soften it over the spirit, then I will apply it all over the borders, only the borders. After I finish, I will try it in the patient's mouth. I will do the border molding. After it's finished, I will scrap the wax spacer. I will remove the wax spacer. Why? Because in order to put the final impression materials in this area. After that, I will mix, in our case, the zinc oxide eugenol, circular motion, till I get streak-free mix. Then I will load it over the custom tray. Then I will take the final or the secondary impression in the patient's mouth. After a set, I will take it out, do something we call it beading unboxing. Beading unboxing in order to preserve the borders of the final impression. We will take it later, we'll teach you how. After doing beading unboxing, I will pour it. Pour it with which material? Dental stone. Not dental plaster, dental stone. Dental stone. I will get the dental stone. This dental stone will give me a cast, we call it the master cast. Master cast. Because it will be the master place to do or process or make our denture. Okay? Thank you very much.